Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's been a great day, I think, and glad to see a lot of people have stayed back, even though we've been running late. But I promise we've got less panelists from the other panelists, so we're going to be real quick. I also know we're probably the last panel between the session with Ragini. Trust me, I tried hard to swap it with Samir, but you can see where his priorities are. Definitely not with AI. With that, I think we've kind of, during the day, gone through a bit of, what are the opportunities with AI? How could you look at driving value? And then a lot of speakers have already spoken about some of the challenges that you could face. I think where we're going to focus today is a bit of help you guys to understand how to set up an AI roadmap and strategy. We'll talk a bit about what to do and what not to do. I think we often spend more time on what to do and forget what not to do from our experiences. And then we'll talk a bit about any challenges that you could face during or setting up that roadmap and driving value out of those roadmaps for your organization. I've got an equally interesting panel, so I can't complain that I'm not hosting the next session, but I've got an equally interesting panel for today. I'm going to start with you, RB, just given the order of sequence we got introduced, and given the breadth and depth of work that Citi does across data and analytics. What is the opportunity that you are seeing at Citi and broader in terms of AI, and have you started to put together a strategy for the organization?
Can you hear? Okay. I think Citi realized that AI is very valuable long back. And Citi is one of the first banks which actually came up with the ethical principles of AI. So we are looking at a lot of areas where the AI ML decisioning is helping us to be customer-centric. One of the things which we also look for is the privacy of the data and the rights of the customers. So that's something which we are very focused on. We are also looking at whether we can explain the outputs of AI, right? So most of the time, I think we have to go through the regulators, and we want to make sure that whatever we come out with has to be explainable and also implementable. Right. And to a large extent, that's what we focus on. And honestly, I think with the early wins, what we have seen, there are so many things where we are doing a proof of concept. We are working on different projects which is challenging how we are doing what we are doing. And these proof of concepts sometimes actually help us a lot, because the significant benefit we see by using a different methodology is very good. So we actually see how we can implement those. Unless until it is focused on the goals of the business and also to a large extent implementable, I think that's what we look for. So honestly, I think we have been working on this for a long time, and there are so many areas and so many functions in which AI can really help us. So that's what we are focused on, and to a large extent, that's one of the biggest strategies for us.
It's awesome. Looks like Citi's at a head start and starting to uncover some of the real challenges with AI. I'm going to move to you, Sid, given the work that SD Analytics done. There's a number out there that only 1 in 5 organizations still have a AI roadmap or a strategy. Given you work with some of the biggest organizations, what are some of the challenges or dilemmas that you see companies or CXOs are having in terms of putting together a strategy or roadmap?
I think the challenge I've seen generally is that there's a lot of hype and peer pressure generally in companies about trying to do something ahead of the curve, showing off that they have AI strategy implemented. I think one of the things we always keep asking the question is, are you happy with your data? Are you able to do the basics that are needed for monetizing the data that you bring into the system? Do you have a clearly defined data strategy? The challenges are that they're not even articulate enough about defining whether they have the right strategy for just monetizing the data that they have in the system. And then AI is obviously a next step in that direction, and we start with giving them a sense of, do you have a data strategy? Do you have a talent strategy for able to even get to an AI strategy? Because if you don't necessarily build the talent around it, then how would you actually be able to implement something that you can do? And a lot of things that we've seen is you don't have to do everything yourself. So do you have a partner strategy? Because there's a lot of really cool work happening across the world now, and it's so much easier for us to pull that niche work into your ecosystem and actually get best of both worlds, internal and external ecospace. So that's the kind of challenges we are trying to understand before we get to developing as an AI strategy.
No, great point. I think you could get carried away. There is a lot of peer pressure with every organization. You see a lot of CXOs, starting to should they be doing it now? But I think you have to remember you can't start to run before you crawl and walk. So I think great point, Sid. With that, I'm going to probably probe a bit more with you, DP. Again, with Tiger, working with clients across. Why would you say that we have to develop an AI strategy now? Right? What's the big opportunity, and why now and not later?
So I think the world is fairly divided today, right? On one side, you have the Fortune 100 companies a lot of them have done the AI strategy in the last 2-3 years. In fact, we do 5 to 6 of these kind of engagements with our clients on a yearly basis. Now, what's happening is the people who are left behind, right? There are two things happening. One is obviously the peer pressure, the follow the leader kind of mechanism. The other is whole generative AI has brought the consciousness about AI per se. So that's kind of changing the whole perception about AI. Now what is happening is data analytics is no longer a differentiator. It is just the normal stuff, right? AI is still a differentiator. And that's where I think the organization needs to move fast. And I think in next couple of years, the AI strategy is going to grow big time because of these kind of dynamics that I see coming up.
Makes sense. I think, yeah, we've been on this data and analytics journey for long. Most organizations have a roadmap, have a strategy, or have done that. I think if you don't look at AI, you may miss the bus. There's more growing confidence that this stuff's for real. We're getting good outcomes. Companies across the organizations are starting to get some benefits out of the pilot, but still early days. I think now we'll probably look at, it is the right time maybe to look at AI, start developing a roadmap if you're a leader in your organization who's looking at this capability. Vijoe, I'm going to move to you. Then if I want to develop an AI strategy or roadmap, what are some of the dimensions that I should look at to develop a very tailored and pragmatic roadmap for my company? I think Sid spoke about that do what's right for your company, right? If you haven't got your data in place and you start to do AI, you probably won't get results. So what are some of those parameters or dimensions on which one should look at to develop a very pragmatic roadmap for your organization?
Yeah, great question. What happens with AI, right? When you think about AI investments, people normally think about investments on data scientists and AI practice, right? But I think, like Sid rightfully said, the basic infra is very important. Availability of data is very important, right? Most of the companies use an ERP system where you can see the data, but you can't feel the data, right? So, and none of these business cases includes the data strategy. So I would say for any company, the basic that we should do first is defining the data strategy. In my experience, getting the right data is more expensive than building the AI practice, right? It's a more expensive exercise. So how will you create a right data strategy? What are the right data sets that makes maximum value for the business? Because sometimes we go with the idea of bringing the entire data from ERP to the cloud, which again costs a lot of money. So identifying the right variables that makes maximum importance or difference for the business and bringing that data to the cloud, that becomes a first priority for any company. And when it comes to an AI strategy, it's always about prioritization, right? Do less, but do things which are big enough for the company. So we use a framework called DVF, which looks at the desirability, the feasibility, and viability. And then we only take projects which makes maximum difference, right? Sometimes in AI, what you see is that the most fanciest problem statements may not be the one that gives maximum value to the business, right? So what we believe is that if a solution can be solved using an equation that's A plus B equals C, do that first before getting into very advanced analytics.
No, makes sense. I think do what's right for you. look at your readiness, look at whether that's data readiness or the talent readiness. I think you've got to do what's right for you. Are there anything else that you guys have considered as you've looked at what the strategy should be for your company?
So more than the strategy, I think we are looking at early wins. So to a large extent, I think we have a program where people actually go beyond and they start actually working on things which have a good alpha value. So we work on it. It is not that we actually succeed in all of them all the time, but we might fail. But there are so many things which are happening. So we want to go to the business with those early wins and showcase that. So also there's a problem because one, I think if the incremental benefit is not good enough, right? So do you want to go with all the investments which you want to make for this? Or show that, okay, this is going to be a very big one so that we can ask for those investments. So to a large extent, I think people are getting used to it. People are getting the confidence that, okay, this is going to work for us. And honestly, I think we are doing a lot of projects across different functions in the businesses where we can prove that this actually will help us. And it also, the two things which we look for, one is the cost of the solution, and the other one is the speed to the floor. Yeah. So can I build it very fast and fail if that's the case, or can I learn from this? Because one, I think we actually talk about the successes a lot, but we don't talk about our failures. So can we come up with a document which actually talks about all the failures so that we know what really works for us and focus on those? So honestly, I think those are the two parameters which we look for.
No, that's a gold mine. I think just making sure you have some quick wins, there is some guarantee of success. I think one thing we've heard throughout the day is if you're not careful, you could blow out a lot of cost and not have wins. AI could be a bit more, the models can be expensive. I come from a retail background, every penny matters, and you can't be just throwing, endless money at pilots. So I think are be great points in terms of making sure you understand the cost, you understand the speed, and then you understand the returns, and there has to be some success to get confidence. With that, I think very valid point. Sid, I'm going to move to you that there's never a strategy or a roadmap which is complete without having the right measures of or outcomes of that roadmap. What are some of the measures one could have for AI as you kind of traverse that roadmap?
I think we've always struggled in analytics world to define value for what you do because you are necessarily not in the front-end organizations driving sales upliftment or revenue enhancement or just profitability measures. So it's always a difficult measurement. It's a pseudo measures that we drive. But I think any investment has to have an ROI, and a lot of the pressure that we see in the market right now is about what do I get after we do this investment. And one of the things that when as a partner with clients where they want to invest with us and actually bring our competencies to them, we have to be giving our skin in the game by saying that if we are not able to generate so much of sales lift, we are ready to pass off our fee back to you. So there is a very conscious effort now in the CIO, CDO, and CAO kind of organization. How do you define value which reflects into business measures, and you can quantify that measurement. And I think strategy is only good enough on the PowerPoint presentations unless until you actually see it materializing into gross margin improvement or revenue upliftment. So I think those linkages are very strong. And though we keep talking about those in the model form, when we develop models, we just have to make sure it passes through into your CFO's statements and you can reflect there. And that's the problem of translation we still have to figure out.
No, I think go back to basics, right? So whether you do an analytics roadmap or a tech roadmap or an AI roadmap, you've got to show value out of the use cases that you pick up. It has to translate into your books in terms of profits or cost savings. So I think great points there, Sid. I think the other one that we've struggled in the organization is on we have a great roadmap. We're measuring value, but the change management aspect of it is hard, and specifically for a lot of the GCCs here, given we are remote to the business in some sense. Vijoe, and how do you manage this change sitting from here, which is important for an AI strategy or success?
Yeah, I believe the easiest part in the entire AI journey is building the solution, and the toughest part is adoption, right? What happens is we again put a lot of money on the AI centers, but do we put enough money on the change management, right? Especially we sitting in India, right? We work for Mexico's of the world or Middle Americas, North Americas, you name them, right? Most of the business, for a lot of our business, it's outside of India. So are we making the right investments in the zones for translators, right? Change management agents, right? Are we converting leaders who are passionate about adoption? That makes the biggest difference, right? It's not about building a solutions alone. That's the easiest part for me. The toughest part is adoption, and value is a subset of adoption, right? If there is no adoption, there is no value. So what we are trying today is to invest equally in the zones on change managers and translators who helps, make these solutions popular among the operators, because the people who finally have to use these solutions, they are not AI literate, right? And we can't expect them to be AI literate. So I think that's where you should have to invest.
Yeah, no, again, a great point resonates with me. The AI is not just about the GCCs getting it right, like the model building and test. You've got to get the business in with you, and that last mile, that change management, getting those translators, getting evangelists in the business is extremely important for you to be successful on your roadmap. DP, I'm going to move to you. The road's not as easy as it seems, right? So what are some of the challenges that you've seen or you anticipate in some of those roadmaps around AI?
So a couple of things, actually 2-3 things. One is when you build an AI strategy, right? A lot of times I've seen clients making the mistake of focusing on one function, right? And that doesn't talk to other functions. So whatever possible, I know it may not be possible to integrate all the functions to identify the AI strategy, but there has to be some semblance of adjacency, right? If you are talking to sales, you should talk to marketing. If you are talking to supply chain, you should talk to manufacturing, right? So the AI strategies have to build in conjunction with other functions, because otherwise you are not getting 1 + 1 = 3. That's number one. That's it. One of the failures I have seen in some of the AI strategy work that I personally or otherwise Tiger has done. Second thing is we have not taken the business stakeholder in the AI strategy journey. You should make them part of the AI strategy, then the adoption becomes easier subsequently, right? That's again another thing that we have learned the hard way, right? You have a fancy AI strategy, but when it comes to execution, adoption, you need to have a separate team for adoption only, right? The third thing is the measurement side, right? How do you bring a very objective framework for measuring outcome, right? So these are the 3 things that I think is very relevant when you talk about AI strategy and finalize, basically getting the value out of it.
I think very relevant. So I think one of the biggest challenges, if you're trying to do this in a silo, you probably are not going to be successful. You have to take your business along with you. You have to take your sponsorship. We could go on endless about this topic, and there's a lot to uncover here and for us to learn, but we are short of time. It's been a long day. I'm going to end with each one of you giving us one key advice or secret sauce in terms of building a robust AI strategy. Maybe Sid will go in this order.
I think for me it is making sure we don't miss the forest for the trees, because eventually the consumer of your outcome should be the center of your strategy. So don't miss out on that. Is he really keen to have it? What is he paying you for? And that's very important.
Now, for me, your closeness to the domains, because end of the day, analytics can only work when you are domain experts with us, right? Sometimes we do a lot of solutions without knowing what the actual business pain point is. So for me, it's all about working closely with the domains and understanding their pain points and creating solutions that they want rather than something that I want to build for the business.
So for me, the risk of not investing in GCCs on AI is the big one. I think you get talent, you get the cost advantage, plus you can do a lot of stuff which can be very close to the business. The best part is the GCCs are all together. So they have technology, operations, analytics, and everything sitting together, and that can be a huge value. One of the things which I've seen is that we take less time to turn it around because everybody is together.
Yeah. DP, last from you.
Yeah, so I completely agree with Harvey, and my point is particularly about GCC. And in my previous talk in the same event, I said that time has come from GCC to become GIC. It's time to talk about global innovation center rather than global capability centers, right? Now, what Harvey said, GCC are best positioned today because they have the talent, they have the technology ecosystem, and they have the partners, right? So all three coming together, there's no reason why GCCs or GICs cannot be the spearheading the whole AI journey for the global organizations.
Awesome. Now, some great nuggets there. We've come to the end of time. I just want to thank the panel for their thoughts and sharing their experiences, and thank you for being such a lovely audience and listening to us patiently. Thank you.